sure low. It'll be grand.
Hello, folks, and welcome to Sure to Be Grand, a podcast of two Irish gobshites reviewing movies and giving you our unwanted opinion. I am Dan. This is Owen. Say hello, Owen.
Hello, Owen.
Very good. That joke will not get tired. That we've done now about 3 or 4 times. And we had the aforementioned two gobshites. This week we're going to review one of our favorites, I think. So this is one of the few times where we actually have watched the movie ourselves and enjoyed it, And this week's movie is The Last Samurai from 2003. It's 17 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Isn't that insanity? All right.
Yeah, kind of. I don't know. Yes and no. I mean, did you think it was more recent?
Yeah, I always do though. Like any movie I've watched as a teenager, I always think, oh yeah,
everything.
Like a few years ago there.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm 30, but I still think like, sure, that was like 5 years ago.
I guess I was like 11 when it came out though. So
yeah, I suppose so. I would probably been about 12 or 13. But yeah,
I watched it I watched it for the first time on a bootleg DVD that I bought at a car boot sale.
That's a real traditional Irish thing to go through, isn't it?
Yeah,
buying a whole bunch of bootleg DVDs.
Yeah, I bought like 10 crappy bootleg DVDs at the car boot sale, and then I pretended to be sick so I could take a day off school, and I stayed in bed and watched like 5 of them. One of them was The Last Samurai.
It's not that you like movies later on in your life. Strange that, isn't it?
It's weird, yeah. Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
Anyway, look, the movie was directed by Edward Zwick. That's a strange name. I'm sure it's fine. Anyway, the writers are John Logan, the story, and John Logan also wrote the screenplay. Stars are Tom Cruise, Ken Watanabe, and Billy Connolly. Though they kind of put these as like the major actors, and Billy Connolly's not really in it for that long.
No, he's barely in it. Like Hiroyuki Sanada is in it more than he is.
Yeah, I suppose that they were just trying to get the attention of stardom and that kind of stuff.
I guess Billy Connolly was a big name in 2003.
I mean, yes, I would say so. Very much so. Are you trying to dispute that?
I don't know. I don't know, to be honest.
Did you not follow Billy Connolly's career? How dare you?
Sorry.
Anyway.
I apologize to Billy Connolly.
Yes, who is a treasure. But anyway, Ken Watanabe, I was surprised this was his first English movie, or English-speaking movie, and the first time he spoke English in a movie as well. For some reason, because you see him in so many movies, you see him like in Batman Begins. He's in all the Godzilla movies or something.
Godzilla.
And, say again?
Godzilla.
Yeah, I didn't say that, folks. He's also in Inception, and you know his face, like if you didn't know his name.
Yeah, he's also a fantastic actor.
Yeah, absolutely. He's also in. I forgot. He's in Detective Pikachu.
He's
a lieutenant in it. Yeah. That's mad. He was in Transformers the last night. I don't think I watched that. I don't think so.
You're better off.
He was in Age of Extinction as well. Oh, he plays some guy.
He
called
plays
Drift.
one of the Decepticons. Oh no, actually, is it one of the? It's the Samurai Transformer, I'd say.
Oh, so it's the kind of racist one.
I'm assuming. Maybe I'm being racist in assuming
Maybe
that.
you're the racist one. Maybe the makers of the Transformers was no, that's an easy trope to go down.
Yeah, we're gonna have
believe
him
in Ken's acting,
and
then there's I bet he's the samurai transformer.
I bet he's the samurai. Anyway, in any case, that Last Night is not. It's better than the Age of Extinction slightly.
We watched Age of Extinction when we lived together in Carlow, didn't we?
We did. That was Age of Extinction. That was the longest. It's a like 2.5 hour movie. It felt like 10 hours.
The thing is, we were so bloody lucky because someone came in, a roommate's friend, who was drinking poutine all day. So that was far more entertaining than watching an actual movie.
Yeah, he thought that my course in film production meant that I was learning how to build televisions.
Yeah, which of course you did,
Naturally,
And then we
yes.
met, we saw someone from back from school. But that's beside the point. That's just a little bit of chit chat for everyone. You know, this movie has it's the start of a lot of sort of Eastern actors kind of getting their first kind of footprint in the West. And yeah, The Last Samurai, or as some people like to call it, the first weeaboo, when they misunderstand that The Last Samurai, the name is actually plural. It's nothing to do with Tom Cruise at all. He's more of a bystander. He perceives what the Last Samurai were up to in their dwindling years, and that's probably why a lot of people see this movie as a little bit of a white savior movie, even
I
though it's not that.
I think that yes, like Tom Cruise is not the last samurai of the title of the movie, but
Yeah.
it is. I mean, it's hard not to, especially in the opening scenes of the movie. It's very hard not to see parallels between this and something like Dances with Wolves or
Yeah, but really beyond that, it's not, because it just the samurai kind of raise him back up, like they are the heroes for his life. Because I suppose we should get into the plot before we go into that. So shall we start that section of our lovely podcast?
I mean, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. Okay. So The Last Samurai. It's the story of Nathan Algren. Algren, was it? Algren.
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 Because he's an
Sorry, I didn't put the
American.
y'all
we
into
would
it.
we would probably if it was we'd probably say
Algren. Well, I'll give
Algren,
it.
yeah, but he's Captain Nathan Algren.
Yeah, Captain Nathan Algren, and he was in charge of running attacks under General Custer. Not General Custard, in case there's someone out there who for years thought it was General Custard.
Who might that have been?
Yeah, who might that have been indeed? But anyway, yeah, and he was in charge of running a lot of campaigns on Native American nations, wiping them out, expanding the US's power. That was basically his job. He was there, for lack of a better word, to terminate a race of people, get them out of the way.
Yeah, well,
You
he
know?
wasn't in charge.
Yeah,
you-
but he
are you talking about
he was
Custard?
obviously hired to do it. Like, he was part of that army. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise's character, yeah, Captain
Yeah, yeah.
Algren fought against
Yeah.
the Red Menace.
Yeah, the Red Menace, as they said. But look, we come, and this is all set in San Francisco originally. Not the entire movie, obviously. That'd be weird. But yeah, it's set in San Francisco, and it's one of those. It almost feels like the war bonds shows where like they get some hero who has been on the front line, and they'll talk him up, and then they'll get him to sell bonds. In this case, it's a gun manufacturer. What's the gun's name? Do you remember?
Oh, it's a Colt bolt action rifle, I think.
Oh, very good. Very, very good.
I
Anyway.
think I'm just assuming.
Yeah.
That may be
Yeah.
incorrect, but it's like they're selling it as the first like
Yeah.
lever bolt action rifle that
Yeah,
like,
which freed the West. That kind of
yeah,
thing.
essentially.
Yeah. And yeah, we see Tom Cruise's character, Nathan, just kind of he's backstage and he's completely drunk. It comes very apparent very quickly that his character is struggling with PTSD.
Yeah, big time.
He's big time. He is self-medicating himself with alcohol. He hates his existence. He hates his life. At first, he comes out onto the show and he's quite whimsical and fun, and people are like, ha ha ha, nice one. And they said, and he looks like a boy. Said, do you ever see what this gun could do to a man? I could shoot a hole 6 inches wide in your daddy. And people are going, oh,
Oh, gasp!
oh no, guns can do that.
All the women
Oh,
in the
dear.
audience feel faint, and all of a sudden,
Yeah. He kind of basically gets fired, but he gets invited by his previous Colonel Bagley, was it?
Colonel Bagley.
Yeah, Bagley and Billy Connolly. Billy Connolly is, as always, just Billy Connolly in every movie he's in. He's smiling and laughing at Tom Cruise terrorizing the audience.
Except this time, he's an Irishman.
Yeah, which doesn't really show. Let's be fucking fair here.
It's yeah. I
He's
mean,
Billy Connolly's voice. Like, come on.
he is. There's like initially there's a couple of instances where like before they flat out really say he's Irish. Like I thought, is he doing an Irish accent? Is that what's going on here? Because there was bits of it. It wasn't his full Scottishness. Like it was clearly something.
But that could have just been
different. But it was
like last week we were talking about that. That could just be let's calm down the accent a bit so people don't understand.
Yeah, no, I think he was attempting an accent, but he's Billy Connolly, and his accent, his own personal accent, is way too strong for him to change that much. It's he's that's very Scottish.
I mean, that's a question as well. Obviously, to us, the Scottish accent is quite different to an Irish accent, but to say that they're not familiar is a bit facetious, I think. So I wonder, is it harder to like imitate an accent that's close to yours, or an accent that's really far away from yours?
It's harder. It's harder to imitate an accent that's a lot further from yours correctly and get everything about it right and get all.
But people understand what you mean when you do that.
Yeah,
accent.
I mean,
they can see the difference.
We can do a horrible, like heavily thick French accent, and people will probably go,
"How do you say?
People will say, "Oh, he's doing a French accent," but like we won't be getting it right exactly.
It's not French. Every French person ever is going, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, they're like, "Wait,
what the fuck?" I suppose.
That's not what we sound like. But if we were imitating a Belfast accent, it's easier for us to get it more correct, I would say. Yeah. Unless you're Jamie Dornan.
Yeah. Listen to our podcast from last week, folks, to understand that. Anyway, or just know things in general living in Ireland. So, he gets brought in front, and there is this representative of the Japanese government. They want more and more industrialization from the West to become a more powerful country because they fear that they'll lag behind. Because historically speaking, Japan was quite exclusionary. They stayed on their island, didn't let anyone in or out. I think the only people that they kind of talked to were the Dutch for about 300 years, something along the lines of that.
They traded with the Dutch.
Yeah, and they got a bit of technology stuff here and there, but really, Japan was cut off. I was listening to someone else talking about it when big boats started arriving to Japan. It would have been the equivalent to us watching Independence Day and seeing the aliens arrive. That's how big of a cultural shock it would have been to them. Which is mad. Very interesting. But
it would have been like it would have been like Columbus's armada arriving in South America.
Yeah. I mean, it's very similar.
Which was the same, but 400 years previous. So that's how behind Japan was. Yeah,
but here's the thing: you will find lots of similarities between Native Americans and Japanese people throughout this. There's a lot of the West coming, colonization, industrialization, how that culture has to change in a big way from an outside force. That's a big theme of this movie, and I saw that's why a lot of people mix kind of compare it to Dancing with Wolves as well. Obviously not the same culture, but same circumstances.
Yeah, it's not. And I think in this, it's Japan forced the changes on themselves as well.
Through necessity, they kind of had
to. They had to, but they knew they had to. They most of Japan knew they had to change.
Otherwise, it wouldn't be great. Actually, they all took it on very nicely. The Last Samurai, they're all okay.
Yeah, they're all fine now. Don't worry about
it. So they make a deal saying, "Hey, look, you come over, teach our civilians how to become an army like the West and all that kind of stuff," which is a bit silly. Historically speaking, they were already very well trained, but we go beyond that. We find out that there is this small samurai group, and they're living in the mountains, and they're hiring Nathan Algren to go out there and basically train the army to wipe out these samurai, because these samurai are traditionalists. They don't want trains to go through their countryside. They're against the idea of losing what they are of the past for this new industrialized money future, right?
Yeah, they're afraid
Um,
that Japan is changing too quickly and they're losing their sense of self and what makes
and
them
they did change
Japanese.
dramatically quickly. Like
They
that
did.
was
I mean, you
yeah.
know, they achieved 300 years of industrial revolution in like 20 years.
And didn't even say like, they built a train 40 kilometers wide in like 2 years, like, which is a huge thing for
Yeah,
the
they
time.
went,
Like,
they did it. They are
yeah,
Japanese.
yeah. Like, okay, that's a weird thing. Yeah, the Japanese are they very good at making train tracks? Is it?
They're very good at making things in general.
Yeah, okay, yeah. They're a very dedicated workforce and very in self control. Unlike us, who's sure we can do it tomorrow, lads. Fine. Anyway, yes. So he gets hired, and Algren kind of realizes this is not a black and white thing. This is not just us versus them, because they're generals in the army that he's training that are samurai themselves, that have fought alongside this general far off in the countryside, Katsumoto, I should say, instead of just keep saying samurai. But he get hired, and eventually Colonel Bagley comes along and says, "Hey, there's been sightings. We want you to go out there and fight." And Nathan Algren said, "No, can't do that. They're not ready yet." And eventually, they just force him anyway. And there's this really gorgeous battle scene in the forests in the fog.
Mm-hmm.
It's cinematically really impressive, like. And you see this kind of army that aren't really an army yet, kind of shooting once and then getting scared and like trying to reload these guns, which probably take about 10 bloody minutes to reload.
Yeah. The Japanese, they don't have the Colt bolt action rifle. Okay.
Yeah.
They have like one shot powder reload, like American War of Independence guns.
Yeah, but then we start seeing like these, samurais coming out from the woods on horseback, the fog slowly revealing them. It's cinematically beautiful. But they're coming out and they just tear apart the army. Billy Connolly gets stabbed in the heart, and that's him for the rest of the movie.
It's the end of him. Yeah, he's a completely pointless character.
Yeah, they could have just had just literally anyway. It could have just been like Bagley going.
Yeah, literally anyone. He didn't need to be in the movie at all. I don't know why he's there, but he is.
Well,
and now he's
someone
not.
Irish. He wasn't Irish, But yeah, anyway, so they get wiped out, and look, Tom Cruise's character is in the middle of like a circle of samurai. He's fighting them off, and he is truly a warrior. That kind of feel we get there, because even Katsumoto sees him and he suddenly remembers his dream that he had a few days before, where he sees this white tiger, stabbing people and attacking people and biting people and fighting in a circle. And he suddenly sees that Tom Cruise is holding a flag of a white tiger on the flag. So it's like premonition. It's the only time like that kind of thing comes up in this. Throughout the rest of the movie, it's just a very straightforward, non-mystical movie. But for some reason, they had to have the main general guy have a vision of this.
It comes up at the end. During the final
mean?
Battle, when to spoiler the end of The Last Samurai, when Katsumoto is dying, he has a vision of the perfect blossom, which he mentioned.
I didn't see that as a vision. I thought that was just a blossom tree in the background he finally saw.
No, that was him seeing that as he died, because he had mentioned it earlier that spending your whole life.
I know that. Yeah. I just assumed that that was just coincidentally a blossom tree. Okay. That's
good
to know.
No, that was like,
shit! There's a blossom tree.
Yeah, that's what he saw
really
as he
nice.
died. Yeah.
Anyway, So eventually, this guy comes up and he's about to kill Tom Cruise, and Tom Cruise, as I imagine Tom Cruise will react in real life, picks up like a sharpened stick or like a shaft of some weapon and stabs him in the throat. And samurai honor being as it is, they don't kill him, and they take him back to the village where Katsumoto's residency is, and where he rules as what we would say like feudal lord, really.
Yeah, it's essentially what they were.
Yeah, weirdly, and again, this is different cultural things. The people that look after him are actually the people, the family of the man he killed. So his kids and his wife, and they look after him because it's they say it was an honorable death and all this kind of stuff. And obviously, I think the wife has issues at first. She's not a big fan of him. That changes, weirdly. Yeah. And look, honestly, for the longest time, it's just Tom Cruise kind of going cold turkey from alcohol and like not having a great time because he has wounds and he's can't drink sake properly because he's lying down the whole time and he spills all over his face. He's not having a good time, and at first he's just frustrated with these people. But slowly these things changes. He sees how each person is polite. They smile, they nod to each other, and all that kind of stuff, and they dedicate their life. Whatever they do, they dedicate it to perfection. They want to get it perfect. And he appreciates that. And eventually he warms up to the villagers warm up to him. He kind of returns to Japan. He returns to Tokyo at one stage and, trying to talk to the emperor and say, like, hey, remember the past, be cool. And obviously the emperor, he's a young man. He's what, 19, 20 or something?
Yeah, he's young.
Yeah, he's just barely an adult, like, and a terrible goatee. Holy crap. But yeah, so, and he obviously looks up to Katsumoto as a kind of teacher, but Katsumoto is all wrapped up in tradition, so he can't really give him advice. He's just like, I can't. You're the emperor. You're enlightened. You're basically a fucking god. Hey.
You're a living god. Whatever you say goes. Like, if you tell
Yeah.
me to die, I'll do it right now.
Yeah, because that's the thing. They make a big point that Katsumoto is not against the emperor at all. He serves the emperor.
Yeah, he believes what he's doing is in service of Japan and of the emperor.
Yeah, like if the emperor said, "Hey, no, everyone in the village, kill yourselves," they'll do it. They're not going against the emperor at all.
They'll have no qualm. Well, the samurai will do it.
Yeah.
The regular citizens, I don't think will.
I don't know. I feel like if the god emperor said kill yourselves, they probably go okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
But that's the thing we see. That's the worst thing now. I can't remember the actual tradition of organized suicide because I've just heard the joke Sudoku so much, like committing Sudoku, I don't remember the original actual one. But they have this ritual suicide.
Harry Carey.
And say again.
Harry Carey.
It could be. I don't know. I'm terrible. Sorry, folks. But yeah, we see the generals committing that and all kinds of thing after the battle, and like Owen and I were talking, I was like, imagine the force of will for that. I just probably nick my stomach and just say, yeah, you can chop my head off now. Go on.
Yeah, it's either called seppuku or
that's what
harikiri, which is the Japanese ritual suicide by disembowelment.
Yeah.
So that's rough, buddy.
Yeah, but
no, I wouldn't. I would not have the strength of person to be able to do that. No matter who was telling me to do it, I don't care if you're a god emperor, man. You're just gonna have to do it for me because I can't.
That's the thing. Like chop off my head. Fair enough. You do it. That's okay. But I can't do this to myself.
I can't do it to myself. I can't hit myself hard enough to cause pain. There's no way I could just ram a sword through my belly.
You'd be trying, and the knife would just you automatically shift your hand so your knife goes past you.
I wouldn't be able to make myself do it. And it's not even a quick death. Like it's hurts and you
stabbed in the guts.
You die slowly, so it's
yeah. And that's because the main thing that came up is geez, imagine practicing for that, because surely they must practice a little bit, like even just getting a blunt stick or something and punching themselves in the gut, surely because that's the kind of thing you can't just do on a whim. I don't know. It's weird. Let's not talk about ritual suicide. That's weird. Honorable. Yes.
I'll place a trigger warning before the start of that passage. I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So they kind of would tell Algren now. Yeah, you're off on your way now. You were only a prisoner of war. It's fine. Go on your way. And Algren is just like, fuck no. They're gonna kill Katsumoto. I'm gonna go and help him. And he joins the samurai. And there's this big battle in the house. I guess they rented for the weekend or own in Tokyo. I'm not sure. And this big, massive.
Yeah, it's Kasamoto's like villa or whatever the hell in Tokyo.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a big, massive battle of some ninjas arriving who are probably samurais themselves.
Katsumoto and the samurai have been placed under house arrest because the council, who have been kind of like manipulating the emperor into doing what they want, have passed laws outlawing the samurai and saying that they can't carry their swords anymore and all this kind of stuff. And Katsumoto was like, nah, I will only stop wearing my sword if the emperor personally tells me to do it. And the emperor hasn't got the balls to tell him. So
no, he's just like looks down, going, no.
Yeah, he's
anyway,
like, I'm only a little boy.
Yeah, please, this cultural thing is really hard on me.
I don't understand what's happening most of the time. Just let me be.
Why don't I have more actual good advisors around me? What's going on? Well, anyway, and Tom Cruise goes in to help him, and they fight their way out, and they escape off into the countryside again. And Tom Cruise's character, Nathan Algren, basically joins the samurai at this stage. He says he will fight for them because he has now gotten to the point where he loves where he was, like where the people were, like that's his home. That's where he's been re-healed and become better. He's basically rediscovered his honor and will to live, and it's to be honest, it emotionally hits really, really well. Like obviously this guy who's suffered from terrible PTSD about the wrongs he's done in the past, and they are terrible wrongs he's done, like, and it is on his hands at the end of the day. But Cosy, your camera's gone off.
Yeah, I know. Just keep going.
Sorry. He's trying to deal with his past, and these people have kind of brought back his well-being, mentally speaking. And they all prepare for war. I've had some choice words to say about when they were preparing for war, because it's like this little village, and they're all like rushing to get things done, and there's just one lad who's just etching the sword, and it's just like, look, can wait till after. No, I know you think like there's a soul inside your sword, but fuck, there's a giant army coming along.
It's distraction tactics. What he actually etched into the sword was something like "your mother's a hoe" or something. Just so when they're like charging towards it, they'll, even if there's a brief flicker of the enemy trying to read what's on the sword, that's an advantage for them.
The sun reflects on the blade and then just projects it on the grass in big writing.
It's a clever war tactic.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so it's a very interesting battle, because it's Japan's new traditional army tactics that they were borrowed from the Americans versus the very old school samurai. So,
who have borrowed their current tactics from Zack Snyder's 300.
Yeah, but to be fair, they make a good point. Like they say this whole thing that, hey, these people still wear armor. And they go, yeah, but these people also dedicated themselves to their warcraft for the last 900 years. Like the samurai, like there's this idea of old war stuff where it's all you just run at each other and there's no tactics involved at all. No, like there's plenty of tactics involved in old, war things. It's just it doesn't really hold up to a lot of conventional like guns.
A lot of their tactics were rendered obsolete by the fact that we have guns now.
Yeah, I mean they were still like extremely intelligent tactics. It's just they don't really mean much anymore. But they work around it. They hide behind a hill so they can't be shot at directly. They set fire traps. They have bamboo traps up. They shoot them down with arrows from behind moats and all that kind of stuff. And they do a fairly job at defending themselves for a while. I mean, they make a big point. They are completely outmatched.
Yeah, really. They're all fully aware that they're not going to win this fight.
Yeah.
That's not the point for them. It's this is their last stand, and they're willing. They want to earn their warrior's death and go out as samurai.
Exactly. And there's an interesting part where Tom Cruise's character tells the story of the 300, and we all know 300, ancient Greek story. And he says it to Katsumoto, and like just before they go into for the last battle, Katsumoto goes like, "How did they do the last 300?" And Tom Cruise just goes like, "Each and one died to the death." And Katsumoto is just like, "Hell yeah, fuck yes!"
Yeah, it's massacred to the last man.
Yeah, like, and he's completely for it because he realized, like,
I mean,
it's honorable, like,
That's all you had to say, Tom. I'm down.
Yeah. So the last scene in the battle is gorgeous. It's mostly just Katsumoto and Nathan Algren, and they're both shot to bits. They've been stabbed to bits, and it's very much Katsumoto's last breath. And he asks Nathan Algren to help him commit suicide, but ritual suicide, in the middle of the battlefield. And he does. And
they've been riddled with bullets because the Japanese army
guns
now have they now have machine guns, or like
the old rotary ones where you pull a handle on it,
200 rounds a minute bit job, and they all get decimated by it. And so
there's one fella who's just standing there for like 10 minutes just shaking as the fucking bullets are just rippling into him. It's just like, whoa. But yeah, it's this beautiful scene. He sees a cherry blossom, which is a nod back to earlier in the movie where he says, you could look for the perfect cherry blossom every day of your life, and it'll be a life worth living for. And in his vision, he sees a cherry blossom because he thinks it's a vision. Owen thinks it's a vision. I'm not so sure it's a vision. I thought it was just in the background, but
no, it's definitely
a nice happenstance.
It's 100% a vision. They like hard cut to it from Katsumoto, and it's an image of the tree that he was standing in front of, basically.
Fair enough.
And then he looks at Tom Cruise and says they're all perfect, and it's his last, it's his death vision. He's earned his perfect death. He's found the perfect blossom.
Exactly. The enemy army at this stage kind of sees how much these warriors are fighting with honor, and kind of going against the major general. They all kind of bow and go on the ground to bow towards these samurai, their enemies, this is still part of our history. We might want to move on, but this is still important to us. I think that's the major element that kind of gets portrayed by this new industrialized army. And to be fair, that's kind of how Japan took it on as well. They took a lot of the honor and working for your fellow man from the samurai caste and made part of their national identity afterwards. Like, to say that the samurai and the ideas was just completely evaporated is not correct. And we see it in this scene. By the end, we back to the emperor. He's like about to sign the deal to say, yeah, Americans come in and do trains and stuff and all other kind of stuff. Yeah, cool. And Tom Cruise's character comes along and he brings Katsumoto's sword to the emperor to give it to him, and says he has, he fought for you till his dying breath. And the emperor kind of takes a second stance and he goes like, no, like, we have to remember our past. We can't just sacrifice it all because that's who we are. And he tells the American fellow, on your way, go away. And he does, and he's very angry and all that kind of stuff. And a lovely last scene where he says, like, tell me how Katsumoto died. And Nathan Algren goes, I will tell you how he lived. And even saying that now, I can kind of feel like that running up the back of my neck, that sort of a emotion tingle thing. But yeah, I think this is the most I've gone into a movie when we summarized it, but it's a really excellent movie. Like,
I was just about to say, you can hear your admiration for the film.
Yeah, it's a really excellent movie. It's always been, I guess it just made an impression on me when I watched it first when I was 13, 14 years old, and yeah, it's it's one of those movies I wish there were more of. It's kind of in the same vein as movies like Gladiator, movies that don't really get made that much anymore, I think.
No, like when this came out in 2003, like there was a period in like the late 90s to early 2000s where there was so many of these like large scale historical epics being
Yeah.
thrown around, and it was like this one, Gladiator, Master and Commander, Troy, like Kingdom of Heaven, even like
We must watch Master and Commander. It's actually a movie I haven't watched yet, and I really do want to watch it.
it's good. It's very, very long, but it's good.
Sure.
But yeah, they don't get made so much anymore. We've kind of action
think-
movies now are all just fast cars and
I
women.
think it's also because I suppose all those movies are kind of like rose tinted views on groups and cultures at that stage, like warriors, and it was always like, oh yeah, that was honorable and cool and that kind of stuff. Whereas now, we're more and more in the zeitgeist of things. People are becoming aware of colonization and that kind of thing, and like the negatives of it and the realities of humanity's past.
Yeah, we just want
Not
to
being
see
squeaky clean.
we just want to see cars fight superheroes, man. That's all.
Yeah, but in a way,
Fair.
because we can have those epics with Transformers because they're not humans.
No, it doesn't
we can't
work.
go to the back to the Transformers
That's-
past.
Yeah.
Actually, Optimus Prime was a massive racist. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Probably-
but
he
yeah,
probably
that's, the Last Samurai. I suppose we should go into the three things we liked and disliked that we never really matched the three things to, but just kind of go on the spot.
Well, we shall strike a balance between culture and fun.
For me, it's going to probably be a bit tricky to say things I disliked, but we'll start with you. Three things you liked, Owen.
Three things I liked. I mean, yeah, I guess we touched on it earlier a small bit. Like, this is a movie that I guess when you first start watching it, and for the opening, I guess 20 or so minutes, it feels like it's going to be a white savior, white man comes to save the savages sort of thing. But then
Yeah.
it's not that, and it doesn't kind of fall victim to that trope. It's much more of just kind of an appreciation for a foreign culture than it is like Nathan Algren comes to save the Japanese kind of thing.
Yeah. That's the thing I was just saying. They raised him back up. They were his
yeah,
saviors
but it's
rather than the other way around.
he's just kind of a witness to
Yeah.
a moment in history as well. That's a really interesting story. I think
Yeah.
that for me, you could take him out of this story and still tell it more or less the same way. Like
Yeah.
Nathan Algren, he kind of he's in the movie as a tool to get Western audiences in to watch a story like this.
That, and he's a good mirror to what the West considered honorable and warfare wise, and what the East found warlike and honorability. Like, he is a mirror to that too.
Yeah, I guess I guess I just feel like you could tell this story is interesting without him being around. The story
It
of
is, absolutely is,
Katsumoto
yeah.
and the struggle of the Last Samurai is great without him in it. So I like that it's not a white savior sort of thing, even though many believe it to be. Yeah, I guess I like that. I mean, it takes some liberties in its historical accuracy.
Yeah, it's certainly one of the things that I would say I disliked about it.
But it's not.
that.
It doesn't claim. It's not claiming to be an exact retelling of anything. These aren't real people. Like Katsumoto's based on
Yeah.
a real person, but the rest of them are just sort of, it's
Yeah.
it's not really. It's not a documentary. Like so.
No,
But,
it's not. But
like-
they also don't go out of the way to say it's not a historical thing either. Like,
No, but I mean, I don't think they have to.
it sets itself in historical times. So I think they're probably more in the midpoint there. I don't think they're saying, "Oh, we're not this." They're not also not saying they aren't that.
No,
you
they're
know.
not. But I don't think they should have to. I think,
Yeah,
even
okay.
if one thing that this movie did was get us to actually learn a little bit about the actual history of it, so I think that's a
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what I was trying to say was that the whole movie just has sort of a reverence, and it's romanticized to a fairly high degree. But you can tell that it took
Yeah.
care in its kind of conveyance of Japanese heritage. Like
Yeah,
there's not there's
just-
no there's not a scene in the movie where like the samurai or Japan as a people is kind of mocked in any way. It's like even
No.
the bad guys, even like Captain What's his shit face is like
Yeah, that's a Christian name, isn't it?
yeah, but he's not. He's never like he's never like these fucking Japanese are fucking idiots. Look at the state of them.
yeah,
Like it's they really took a great care in that, and I have a passionate love for Old Man Bob, the warrior legend of Japan.
yeah. We had a nice little skit scene in mind where, so you can tell a story of Bob, and we'll just mention the skit scene afterwards.
Bob is because I don't think we learn his actual name, but he's an older samurai warrior who is like tasked with keeping an eye on Nathan Algren and making sure he doesn't do anything stupid, and I guess also the reverse, and making sure nobody does anything stupid to him. And
he does how
he never speaks. Like he just kind of follows Nathan around and like kind of points him in where he's supposed to go. And like initially, before Tom Cruise learns how to speak the language, he kind of just talks at him as a way to vent when he's like frustrated with his captivity, sort of, by Katsumoto, and he gives him the name Bob because he doesn't know his real name, so he just says, fine, I'm going to call you Bob. Do you care? Of course you don't care. Your name is Bob. Whatever. And it's just like we figured that the movie was going to turn around at some point and have Bob just turn to Tom Cruise and start talking in English, saying, my name is Bob, actually, or something. But he doesn't. He never.
No, I've spoken English for a long time.
Yeah, he never speaks.
Yeah.
I think the only noise that comes out of his mouth is like in the final battle where he like throws himself. You like get down Mr. President style in front of Nathan Algren to like save his life in the battle, and he screams loudly, and unfortunately meets his demise. But
But he dies with honor.
Bob is a hero.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely. So I mean, is there anything else you liked about it, or should I hop on a few things?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's plenty. Like I think Tom Cruise is fantastic in this. I think it's a rare-ish.
Well, he's not even the best thing in this.
No, but I think
he's
it's
not even the best actor. I think.
It's a rare-ish instance that for most of the movie I didn't see Tom Cruise. I actually saw the character. Whereas a lot of the time, especially in more recent Tom Cruise movies, it's just Tom Cruise. You can't see him as a character anymore because you just see Tom Cruise being Tom Cruise. Whereas
he was very dedicated to this movie as well. Like, he spent 2 years learning the Japanese language and their swordsmanship. Like, he was, and he's devoted to all the roles he does. Like, say what you want about his private life and all this kind of stuff, right? But the man is for his craft, 100%. Like,
oh yeah, easily. Like I've said this before off air that it's I'm fairly certain that because of the level of dedication Tom Cruise gives to the type of movies he does now, I'm fairly certain the world is going to wake up some morning to news that Tom Cruise has been killed on the set of a movie. Because he's gonna he's getting old. He's getting older, and this shit of like hanging off the side of an airplane as it takes off with no safety harnesses or anything, and like jumping across rooftops and shit.
Yeah,
it's gonna go wrong for him eventually. Like it already has slightly. Like he's broken bones.
He's got a few injuries, like ankle snapped and all.
Yeah,
stuff.
and at the moment we're sitting like, Jesus,
we don't
Christ,
need to do it, Tom.
Amazing.
There's an entire bloody like team.
Yeah,
it's film team.
You know, and he's getting older.
Surviving.
He's getting older, so like his body's gonna betray him at one of these days. And I think,
or just even then. Just him doing it, something's
gonna go wrong. Him and Christopher McQuarrie keep working together on these Mission Impossible movies. Like the next one, like Tom's gonna be strapping a rocket to his back and flying to the moon. Like it's like
I'll do it myself.
I'll do it. I don't care. I'll do it. Tom, you're not an astronaut. Oh, I'll learn. Don't you worry. Okay. So yeah, I love him. I think he's an amazing person. But I like him.
He's absolutely. I suppose I mentioned a few things I liked. Like, okay, absolutely, Tom Cruise did such a phenomenal job in this. Brilliant acting, fantastic. But honestly, Ken Watanabe, who plays Katsumoto, after that movie, I feel honored by having watched this movie. Like, it is such a genuinely good, deep performance, especially for someone who's never done English acting before on film. Like, he did such a damn good job portraying that, like, lord. But he wasn't just this haughty lord who just talked down on people. He also got involved in theater and made silly faces and cared. You know, this man deeply cares about his people and his emperor. Like, this, he's emotive and wise. It's just such a wonderful character.
Yeah, I think I mentioned in our Wonder Woman review that the problem with Gal Gadot's performance in that movie has nothing to do with her accent, and there are plenty of non-English speaking, or like English isn't their first language, actors who are fully capable of acting phenomenally in English. And this is
For
one
example,
of those instances.
yeah.
Ken Watanabe in this movie, he's not. He's speaking English, but it's not. He's not crippled by his accent or by having to speak in a second language. He's acting, and the language is irrelevant.
If anything, it enhances the experience, because we get this samurai lord who is practicing his English, but he's also extremely elegant. He can probably speak better English than we do at that stage, like, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, just he really was a standoff for me. I absolutely love it. Second thing, and I think we both highly agree on it, the score of this movie is beyond belief. It is such a beautiful, like, the music is just done so well.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful score. I don't think like Hans Zimmer does the score for this as well, who everybody can agree is phenomenal at what he does. I just think it's really, really great, but there's nothing like superbly iconic in it that you would say, like, it's no real like theme song moment, whereas something like Gladiator has, like, you can hear something from Gladiator and it's instantly recognizable as, oh, that's the Gladiator song. It's from Gladiator. I don't think there's anything in this that's like, oh yeah, that's the Last Samurai song. It's it's an amazing work, but
I think I'm going to disagree with you, because the heightened music they have during the battle scenes at the, like, when it comes up to the summit of the scene, like that's very Last Samurai. I could hear that song anywhere and I'd say that's the Last Samurai.
I think probably because you've just watched the movie, you'll recognize it now. But there's no like iconic tune.
There is. They have a main theme in it, and it does come up in heightened battle scenes.
Yeah, and it happens in the movie, but outside of the movie, it's not like a well-known, like, oh yeah, that's the Last Samurai song.
I think that's more to do with the Last Samurai not being as much in the spotlight as other movies, rather than the quality of the score. I think the quality of the score really does stand out.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I think it's a great score. I'm just saying it's not like, you're not going to get the Last Samurai Tiesto remix.
But that's more the popularity of the. I think this score stands up to any score in like Gladiator. Like,
oh no, it's not a patch on the Gladiator score.
Well, I'll fight you in real life. But
All right,
anyway,
then.
doesn't matter. This is where we agree to disagree. I won't agree to that. Yeah. So, other things I mean, the whole world building, like the actual set. So, like, this one weird thing about this movie, it's filmed in New Zealand, because the actual places in Japan where this would have been are too industrialized, too built up. So they wanted a more countryside look and feel to it, and like the filming locations are gorgeous. The buildings, I assume those buildings were probably not made for the movie, because they all seem very high end, top quality sets. Otherwise,
in the village.
yeah.
Don't know, to be honest.
Yeah, I say all interior stuff anyway. What probably existed somewhere already. But yeah. So that's another thing. Just the scenery and the looks. The armor was awesome looking. yeah, it's just a very great movie. I loved like seeing Tokyo and San Francisco, in their time when the story was set. That was done pretty well. There's a bit of CG going on that's a bit obvious to us these days, but mostly not noticeable, I think.
Yeah, there's maybe I remember maybe one scene where I thought, oh, that's like a green screen or something.
When they're walking down the street in San Francisco, was it?
No, it was like right after that when Tom Cruise is on the boat and he's arriving in Tokyo for the first time.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but look, we can be snobby about that kind of stuff, but it's just it's of its time,
Yeah, I mean it
Ridiculous,
would have looked perfect when it was released. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's like seeing PlayStation 1 graphics and go, oh my god, I can't believe how realistic this looks. Yeah. But yeah, that's three things we liked. Well, kind of liked. And now, things we disliked. I'm going to have a hard time with this, but like the first one is probably historical things. And a little bit how they portray Japan as well. They have this idea that all the samurai, like, oh no, guns are dishonorable, swords are the only honorable way to fight. That wasn't really a thing at the time, based on a few historical things I read up on. Like, they were very willing to take on new weapons. It was more letting cultures in. They were all for building themselves and becoming stronger, more powerful in the outside world, but they didn't want to lose their. Well, the big thing is like these samurais at the time, though, they were lords, and they didn't want to lose that power. Because the idea was that if industrialization comes in, suddenly everyone is becoming more equal. You couldn't just put a commoner to death because they dishonored you. Everyone's a little bit more equal, and a lot of them were just warlords who were just like, no, we want to continue fighting like we did for the last 900 years. So there was that. So this idea of, oh, guns are dishonorable and
yeah, I mean,
samurai
like,
that's not really
at the time of this
true.
movie, they hadn't really been fighting though, for like.
For
200
years,
years,
Emperor had taken over. Yes, that's fair enough.
Well,
But, like,
once
they
Japan
still
was,
wanted that
yeah,
fighting.
like once Japan closed itself off and the shogun and the samurai were in charge for like 200 years, they didn't really have much to do because there wasn't really any. Like, nobody was kind of fighting. There was no wars, just the odd little battle or put down something. But yeah,
but still, that was a big part of their thing. They wanted to hold control of their local constituencies and that kind of stuff. That's all it was really about. And especially because he said, like, my family has kept my land safe for 900 years and now it's being lost. I can understand the frustration of that, like. But yeah, I think they painted Japan to be a little bit iconic and its wonderful honor system, that kind of stuff. But really, measuring up to modern days, there was a lot of selfishness there as well, and a lot of like bigotry and dictatorship, basically.
yeah, it's heavily romanticized.
Yeah. But it got the spirit right, I guess. What we wanted to see was there. So I'm not going to be too hard on it. Like you said, anyone who watches this movie and decides, hey, this is obviously saying it's completely historically accurate, like, that's not their fault. It's the viewer. Like, don't take your history facts and cultural understandings from fucking movies, lads.
Yeah, like you should never really watch a movie that isn't a documentary, and like that, the buy-in of an audience to believe that what they're seeing is total fact should only exist if you're watching a documentary.
Yeah.
You shouldn't
in the movie
like,
of watching it. In that time, suspension of disbelief, it's gone, like, and you believe it for that time. But don't walk away from it saying, like, yeah, and this general, did you know this general went to Japan and
that's
like
the
he
thing.
became a samurai?
You
don't do that.
You shouldn't watch The Last Samurai and suddenly be like, yeah, okay, I know everything about the fucking the fate of the last samurai warriors in Japan in 1872. Yeah. Like, I know it all. That was complete fact. Like,
yeah.
That's
and
on
people
you.
Who do it. Like,
yeah, that's on them.
Like, it's jokey, but a lot of people do. Like, they kind of incorporate it into their general fact. Don't do that.
Yeah, I think that's on them. I don't think that's on the movie.
Yeah, you're right. I agree. And it's a movie. It's entertainment. Don't get educated. Like, get educated by its themes and talking about morality and philosophy. Yeah, that's what movies are about. They're a discussion of these things. But don't get actual facts here. But yeah, so that would be my only major issue with the movie, I think.
Okay. I have a couple of little things. Again, they're not in like it's a really good movie, so they're not like there's nothing major about it. I think there's a couple of characters that are just pointless that don't need to be present. Billy Connolly is one that we've mentioned already. His character is not necessary to anything in the movie. Like he's there, he serves a small function in that he's the one that like gets Nathan Algren to Japan, but like that could have been anyone. That could have just been
Could have been the colonel.
Could have been
colonel.
you know,
hey, yeah, come back. Oh no, I hate you. We'll give you loads of money. All right.
yeah, because it's not like you know, it's I don't know, and then he just dies, and it's like they kind of make a moment that you think his death is going to be a big thing for Nathan Algren because he's like witnesses his death, and he's like, no, Billy or whatever his name is in the movie, and then it's just never mentioned again. Like it's not brought up ever.
I'll be honest, the first time I watched this movie, I kind of expected his character to come up again near the end, thinking that he only got wounded and didn't die or something.
Yeah, or at the very least, I thought it would be like it would have more impact on Nathan.
Yeah.
To that, you know, he would have to deal with that more like that.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't. Another one though, I think Timothy Spall, Peter Pettigrew's character again, like. He's their translator, like I guess when they arrive in Tokyo first. Again, could have been anyone. Could have just been a Japanese man. They didn't like could have
been Billy Connolly's character. Maybe he had such an exposure that he knows a few bits in Japanese now.
It could have been anyone. It didn't. You know, Timothy Spall is not necessary to the movie either. Just he's
kind of like an end movie narrator a little bit. That's about it.
Yeah, he's supposed to be the one telling the story of Captain Nathan Algren or whatever, which again, you know, not necessary.
And then he was going to scalp me.
Yeah, but like they give you there's an in the movie to say where the story came from, and that's like Nathan journals every single day. He writes everything down. He writes down his thoughts, and he you know. He keeps a log almost of all the stuff he's doing and the adventures that he's having. So you don't really need like him. You don't need Pettigrew to come along and be like, and what happened to the American captain? Some say he lived up. You know, it's like just I don't know. Just a couple of little things like that I think could have made the story cleaner a little bit.
And maybe shorter even, because the movie's long.
Shorter. It's quite long, yeah. And then there's one thing, I mentioned this when we were watching it. So when Katsumoto's son is grievously injured when they're trying to escape Tokyo, and they're like, there's a scene in it where he's lying on the ground, he's wounded, and you're like, oh no, are they going to save him? And Nathan makes the decision to run back into fire and pull him out of it, and then immediately afterwards they're like, ah shit, no, he's dead anyway, and he makes his last stand, and it's a nice moment. It just annoys me a little bit when it's like, and I get it, it's like I guess they were trying to show Nathan is now fully committed to being on the samurai side, but we already had that solely from the fact that he went back to save Katsumoto in the first place. So
it's also like 5 minutes off the other soldiers suddenly not knowing how to aim properly, and then suddenly relearning how to aim. Like there's a lot of bullets are just flying all over the place.
That's one thing as well that I guess is a bit odd in this movie. It's that like sometimes bullets are really bad and hurt a lot and kill people, and other times they're like Ujio, the swordmaster, like Katsumoto's swordmaster, like he gets shot, like he gets riddled with bullets. In the last fight, he gets shot like 6 times in the chest.
He's standing there and he keeps getting shot.
But he gets shot off his horse, and like he gets hit like 6 times, like in the shoulder. He's like fucking 50 Cent, man. He just gets riddled with him, and then tumbles and collapses off his horse. And like, oh shit, he's dead. And he just like people are trying to help him up, and he just stands up and slaps away the hands like, "No, I'm good. I can keep going." And you're like, "You just got like what?" And then there's other times where like somebody gets shot, like the kid gets shot, like wherever, he gets shot once, and then you think he's dead, and then he's like, nah, I still have a bit in me, and he just like turns the corner and starts flinging arrows everywhere and like charging in. So it's like sometimes unrealistic in that, and it's fine. I'm not really gonna care too much about
It's
it.
how to
just-
balance out the fact that they still want to show these samurais being very strong and capable.
Yeah, I mean,
of
it's
things.
again, it's like the
Yeah.
it's kind of the same as the historical parts of
Yeah.
it. You know, it's you,
Because I
you
mean, it'd be
dispense
very
with that in
slow
service.
movie if just every bullet killed a samurai straight off. Just like dead. Like, I will fight on. Poof. Oh no, he's gone. All right, bye now. You know.
Yeah, it's just I mean, it's just a different story. It's kind
Yeah.
of you have to sacrifice that kind of ultra realism sometimes in service of what you're trying to say. But
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like playing like games like Call of Duty. You know, you should be able to.
Yeah.
If you shot once, you're kind of out. You should be able to like hide behind a bush for like 2 minutes and like re-heal yourself and then go back out. You know.
yeah, everyone in
Yeah.
Call of Duty has the super soldier serum. Like,
Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, that's a fairly decent point. But again, it's at least it's a necessity that they did those things, and I think we understand why that was chosen as a path. Except like the characters you mentioned, like the characters have no real purpose.
yeah, that's kind of why I was asking: was Billy Connolly was he a big name at this? Like, was he? I'm trying to think of
imagine he
what else.
was.
What wasn't he? He was in Lemony Snicket's around the same time as this. I think that was like 2004. So
But I
Oh,
think that
was
was
he-
probably when he was trying to get into acting more. Everyone knows him as being a comedian. Like he's very famous comedian.
yeah, I don't know. I just yeah, I don't know.
We'll go on to RJ's pause and go. What's your Jesus moment on? It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's one that's kind of a small thing, and it was literally just there's like a really gory moment in the final battle where a dude's face gets sliced in half, and it was
Yeah.
very like whoa. But
It kind of came out of nowhere. It wasn't just like, oh Jesus, all right, it's this kind of movie now.
yeah. Not that there's no gore in it up to that point, but this was just very like Jesus Christ, that happened. But I guess I don't know. It's maybe in the first meeting with the Emperor when Nathan and the Colonel first arrive in Tokyo and they go to see the Emperor. And he's kind of sitting. They're not allowed to see his face, and they're told they're not allowed to look him in the eyes, and they have to bow and all this kind of shit. And he's like sitting in a throne, kind of shrouded in shadow, so you don't know what he's like.
Yeah.
And then he steps out of the shadows for the first time, and the first time you see him, and you instantly is like, Jesus, he's very young.
Yeah, he's like 19.
He's a child. He's a look at him.
Yeah.
He's a kid, and
Yeah.
I guess it's maybe that, and it's kind of, I think, thinking back on it, was kind of a nice, it's a subtle kind of a way of kind of putting it into an audience's mind that maybe this emperor isn't the
Really in
living
charge.
god, like super
Yeah.
great leader that the samurai or like that Japan are presenting him as to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And if he had been like an older man or an actor that we recognize or something, it would become difficult or more difficult later in the movie to believe that he's being like manipulated or living in fear of his own council and just kind of
Yeah.
doing what he can to keep them happy so they don't like get rid of him or something.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a nice little moment.
My Jesus moment would be, I mean, it's a lot of the battle scenes. It's a lot how like all the samurai built like super soldier people where they get shot and wounded so many times. And I suppose there is still a point to be made that the guns that were used were a little bit on the lower scale of damage as they are nowadays, because even modern bullets can rip. They're made to like twist and rip flesh, whereas these were just punching in chunks of lead into people, like. But we see that it does still do damage. We see Tong's character at the end. He's hobbling along towards the Emperor. That's the thing, and he's clearly wounded for life, and he'll probably just retire in that village. So I guess that's the biggest jizz moment.
There's a point actually. I don't understand why Tom Cruise is a free man at the end of it.
Because the Emperor likes him.
But he's not even in. He's just walking around. This is the first time. Clearly, the Emperor's like, "What the hell?" There, everyone's like, "Oh, he's here. What the hell?" It's like, what happened to him between the battle and that moment? Surely he should have been fucking arrested or something.
Maybe it was just that. Maybe I imagine it's probably some sort of Japanese respect thing. Maybe because he wasn't actually a samurai. He wasn't really. He wasn't really part of the samurai
I don't know.
cast. That's pretty much the most RJ's moment. Because and it's not like it's not a surprise RJ's. It's not like, oh Jesus, like oh, fed up with this kind of stuff. It's the closest thing to RJ's moment. It's like, oh, okay, they can keep surviving after a good few hits there. That's a bit silly, but at the same time, you know, whatever. It made the movie cooler and better than it would have been if they all were just down with like one bullet at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my Jesus moment. I suppose we'll go into our final thought.
Yes, Mr. Frodo. It's over now.
Last thoughts. That like this is a movie I've watched probably 4 or 5 times in my life. I'll probably watch it another 4 or 5 times before I don't live, I guess is the way to finish that sentence. Ominous. But look, it's just a fantastic movie to return to. It's, you know, made well. It looks great. Characters are sincere and likable. It's a little bit cartoony without being too cartoony. Obviously, everyone involved cared about the production in a big way. I would always recommend it. I don't think it's a white savior movie. Obviously, as 2 white people, we are the authority on that to declare it's a white. You know, that's you know that's it comes down to us to make these decisions.
Yes.
But I don't really see it as a white savior movie. I think it's just a really good time movie. You watch it, enjoy it. You know, feel a bit glorious seeing some of the battles and the honor. It kind of, because in a lot of ways it kind of lets you pretend a little bit that you are part of that, like that you can hold those morals and honor systems and respect them, and maybe even play with the idea yourself when you watch movies, because that's what we do when we watch movies like Gladiator. It's not just that we're watching a really cool story, but we like to imagine there's a little bit of us that would do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's escapist. Any last thoughts on?
Yeah, I think it's a really great movie. I think if I was to compare it to other movies of its ilk, I don't think it's the best one. I think it's really good, and it's an enjoyable watch. I think it gets a reputation it doesn't quite deserve in some elements. You know, in the like the white savior thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really good, and I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, I'd definitely say if you haven't watched it, treat yourself. It's a good time. It's on Netflix in Ireland. It's in a few other streaming services around the globe, and I'm sure you can probably buy a DVD for like €1 of it somewhere. Like, but yeah, so yeah, that's our episode for today. Shall we give them a clue or just tell them outright what we're watching next week?
Next episode, we got a request from a listener,
From our #1 fan,
a big fan of ours. Thank you very much, Ricky. We are gonna do New Mutants.
Yes. I haven't watched it yet at all.
I have
Owen
seen
has
it.
watched it.
I went to see it in the cinema.
We
when it
won't
came
give
out.
our opinion. He won't give his opinion just yet. But I think a lot of you probably know his opinion already. But never mind that. But look, we'll watch it next week, next episode, and we'll give it a fair whack. We'll give it our honest opinion as usual. Folks, it has been as great as it always has. Here, I'm going to give a bit of a push for the next few episodes. Why don't you like our posts? Give us a comment, and please do share to let this thing grow, because we really would like to see more people get involved. It was great to have Ricky comment, and we just like to see more people get involved to make this thing better, because we can do as much as we can, but without an interactive audience, it can't really grow much beyond that. And you would like to see it grow, wouldn't we, Owen?
Yeah.
Very passionate plea there by Owen. And anyway, folks, this has been The Last Samurai. I'm sure it'll be grand. I'll talk to you next week.
Asherlo.